put it that way.
Well, it's very, very interesting to talk to somebody who actually knows these things. Usually I'm talking to people and I have to go over everything 100 times before they get it. So this is great. So I don't even need to go into all of this stuff because you guys already know it. So that's fabulous. Yes, I would absolutely agree. The way I've been watching this oil event unfold, and at first I was just angry that they weren't stopping it, and I was attacking Obama and everything. But now I actually am convinced that what you just said is right. I think they're just letting it happen. I'm not even sure if the oil that they're showing us on the video is actually where it's coming out of. There's Simmons, who was the oil guy for Bush, said on Dylan Radigan's show 2 days ago that there's another volcano erupting 5 miles away that they're not telling us about. And
yeah.
we know that that they changed the crew on the platform about 2 hours before the eruption. A whole bunch of new guys that nobody knew came in, and we know that Obama sent a SWAT team there. So what was the SWAT team about? Well, the SWAT team, I think, was there to make sure that nobody got in with video cameras, no reporters got in, so that they could control the whole thing, the whole story. And it's freaky, and anybody, right now, these guys should be all put in jail. That's what I think.
Well, sure. If that was gonna do any good, which I'm a skeptic about the use of so-called jail here on planet Earth, since the whole place is more or less a prison. But
jail.
That's not really a cure for anything, in my opinion. But at any rate.
Okay, well then I got a better solution, but I won't say it.
But as a screenwriter, and having been, making documentaries and so on, you will be familiar with the notion of foreshadowing, and you probably heard that the movie Knowing had this incident in it. I'm sure you heard Nicolas Cage.
Well, actually, believe it or not, Knowing is based on my work.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
My book, The Cross of Henday. Yeah.
No. So anyway, I'm just alluding to the fact that they are foreshadowing a lot of these events in various places and have been for quite some time. But it's also, because this is an area where you will also have gone, which is how the field of consciousness, and that means us, that means all of us, will impact on events that they do plan. In other words, we're not just slaves here, because we're actually, if anything, the slaves are beginning to rebel and take over the planet. And I think that is the thing that is scaring these people the worst of anything. And therefore, what we have is we do have a battle, but it's a spiritual battle. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, well, I completely agree with that. Ron Paul was on the radio yesterday and said that he's gotten word that everybody in the Federal Reserve is freaking out because it looks like America is finally waking up, and they're afraid they're going to get, we're going to come after them, which I hope we do. But that's what this really is, and this is the religions that the Anunnaki had formed and placed around us like prison walls. Are falling apart, and those religions, I'm sorry to say, I'm not trying to offend any religion, but those religions are just manufactured to keep us in slavery and keep us from knowing who we really are. And who we really are is astonishing. It's the most astonishing story there is. I mean, we are the paragon of creation. We are the possessors of hyperdimensional bodies, and we can do anything. The great anthropologist Robert Lawler, who's a dear friend of mine, was really the first white guy to ever get into Australian Aboriginal culture, and he lived with them and traveled with them and went on walkabouts and wrote a great book about it. But he tells astonishing stories of psychic abilities among these Aborigines to talk to each other over hundreds of miles. They know where the game is 3 or 4 days before the game even moves into the areas where they're going to hunt them. They know where the salmon is going to be, days before the salmon shows up at that place, so they're there to get it. And so what he's showing is that our original primal selves, which are represented by the Aborigines, have incredible abilities that have all atrophied for us because of technology and all the rest, and that we are incredible beings who are eternal and infinite, and we can do anything. This is what the Anunnaki do not want us to find out. This is their number one goal. Fear. Keep everybody locked in fear so they can never relax long enough to find out who they really are, how powerful they are, and how we can knock these guys out in a split second if we collectively decide to do so.
Right. But have you, there's lots of places to go with all of that. And certainly as what we say is that the biggest secret, that is the biggest secret. In other words, our own power is the biggest secret that they don't want us to know. I have to say, however, that humanity is waking up. And what you're talking about is a precog, abilities that have to do with being precogs. And I'm wondering if you're aware of autism, the role of autism, and the fact that there are lots of autistic children more than ever before being born, and that this is actually being engineered by the black projects with a purpose in mind. Are you aware of that?
Well, are you talking about the vaccines that cause autism?
Yes.
They have. So you're saying that the black ops people are creating autism to keep us stupefied?
No, actually what they have been doing is certainly trying to create a race of precogs such that they can use them, because what they do is create, that's one aspect. There's another aspect to it that has to do with a jump in the evolutionary timeline for humanity, has to do with that gene, apparently. And, I just have some preliminary research in this regard, but I was just curious whether you had gone down that path at all, because it does factor in to where that, because they're always trying to create a Superman, as you may know. And so what we're really talking about is a creation of humanity 2.0. And so in a sense, you could say, because with autism obviously comes a lot of problems with children. So they have this gene, they have these abilities, but at the same time, they have other genes and other problems. So it's not a perfect solution, but it's one of the aspects and one of the ways that they've been going about trying to upgrade the human race from behind the scenes. But in a sense, you could look at autistic children as being the sacrifice to do so. What it does is change the gene. And it changes, it's kind of, if you look at a flat line on a graph, then you see a jump. That's what the autistic gene does. And if it enters into enough people in the population, there's an effect that happens. This is a whole sort of secret area, that I've been putting together. I was just curious whether you had gone down that, road at all.
No, it sounds incredibly fascinating, and I would be very interested in that work. I had no idea, but it doesn't surprise me. However, I can't believe that anything that these guys do can be of a benefit to humanity. That just goes against every single thing that I've ever read or heard about them. They seem to be some of the most nefarious people or whatever they are.
Well, you have to remember that they are interested in keeping the race alive. In other words, they want to keep themselves alive. They want to keep, a race of certain group of them alive. So it's very selective. But, you can look at it from that point of view. They will, in essence, it's still the Nazi agenda for all intents and purposes.
Yes, it is. Anytime you're messing with things like that, you're definitely, you're opening Pandora's box, and who knows what's going to come out of there. But the real point of everything is that we are already born very born with angelic powers and abilities, and we are just taught that we're nothing but lumps of clay that